We're gonna move to our next speaker, Nabeel Khoury, who's a former American diplomat. Nabeel, you have 7 minutes for your talk. Thank you so much in advance.
Okay, thank you. Am I unmuted? I think so. All right, so to be brief, listening to all the different interventions, the earthquake, of course, has killed tens of thousands of Syrians, Turks, third country nationals who were visiting, or migrants or aid workers. So it affected a very large and diverse group of people. But the Syrians in particular have suffered what we call here a triple whammy, 3 big blows. One of them is from nature, a natural disaster. One of them is from the failed state where they're supposed to be living and thriving. And one of them from a failing international system, which is frankly too complicated and too troubled by politics to properly cover the humanitarian needs of the people. The quake itself, I mean, natural disasters, there's not much anybody can do except perhaps to improve the ability to predict. This is an area which has been devastated for the past century. More than 20 large quakes, and perhaps this last one is the largest. But certainly scientists all over the world know that this area is vulnerable, and the scientists should give us ways of improving the ability to predict and the ability to prepare for such events. And very likely such events will happen again. So hopefully the world will be better prepared. Now, the international system, and here we can blame the UN and the Charter, but we all know the UN is very hard to fix. The UN Security Council that works for the 5 big powers, each one having a veto power, and when they cannot agree, someone will veto the decision of the others, and so they cannot act. I think Robert Ford correctly pointed to where the UN can act without waiting for a Security Council resolution. This area, this line should be better demarcated between where you wait on the Security Council and where you can just go in. The problem, of course, is both for the UN and for US aid, is security. If you go in without guarantees from the 5 major powers, somebody from the major powers or people acting on their behalf on the ground can not only derail the convoys, but also threaten the security of those delivering the aid. Unfortunately, the wrangling between all the powers has delayed the aid. The Secretary General, acting without Security Council approval, authorized the opening of a second gate, the Bab al-Salama, from Turkey. But that came 8 days after the disaster struck. So a bit late, and perhaps he was waiting on the big powers for approval at first. And also the aid from northeast Syria to northwest Syria was only allowed, and the news is that several trucks have been allowed to pass from east to west, and that's a very good thing. But that has taken 10 days in which thousands of lives could have been saved, and thousands more could have been assisted with food and medical attention. So again, the politics of that did not work as well as it should have. The gate situation from Turkey into Syria, there should be several. I think Turkey has said that it's willing to open more gates if the big powers would approve. And of course, some of them up till today do not approve. The regime in Damascus wants the aid to pass through Damascus as a way of getting their recognition back, getting them back into the international community. Turkey, of course, also wants to centralize and wants Ankara and Istanbul to be centers for the distribution of international aid. The Russians are trying to help the Assad regime regain recognition, and that has been a problem. All these political things have to be worked out, but I'm not sure that they will be worked out. I think the least of it is humanitarian gates and humanitarian access should be agreed upon. We've heard of a rapprochement between Erdogan and Bashar al-Assad. Well, there are major issues probably that they will never agree on, but at least on delivering humanitarian aid, they should be able to work out access points and not care too much whether the central government is controlling that or not. And my suggestion for the US in particular, why do they wait on the Russians? Robert Ford asked, but they wait because there may well be a problem on the ground. And there already is a lot of tension between the US and Russia over Ukraine. If the US acted without the green light from Russia and others, there may well be violence on the ground. I suggest that, you know, if the US sanctions policy has not worked, they don't like the Assad regime, but they don't want to remove it themselves. They want the Syrian people to remove Assad. The compromise position has been to levy sanctions, so-called Caesar's Act and others. Problem with these sanctions is they have hurt the Syrian people. They have not bothered the Assad regime too much. I think the US should be able to act either independently or through non-governmental organizations, specifically for humanitarian aid. Med Global and SAMS, the Syrian American Medical Society, both have done tremendous work in northern Syria and other places in the region, supplying doctors and medical staff and medical equipment and medications. The US and Europe could work through organizations like this that are trustworthy and that are in direct contact with the people in need on the ground, so that if Americans, for them, it's problematic to go in directly, work indirectly through these civilian organizations. As I say, I'm afraid it's already too late for thousands of lives. But the humanitarian aid for those living is going to be needed for a long time to come. And hopefully lessons will be drawn from the mistakes and obstacles which faced humanitarian aid this time. And perhaps when the next disaster strikes, we will all be better prepared. And thank you all for your patience.